Good evening and welcome to Andy Wilson's Celebration of Service. This is an event to spotlight, as Andy puts it, a cadre of committed citizens who have raised their hands to serve our community. We've almost got the room. That's good, very good. Oh, City Attorney to the rescue. My name is Mark Jomsky, the City Clerk of Pasadena.
And I'm Pam Thyrett, the District Liaison for Council District 7, and Mark and I are so honored to serve as your MCs for tonight's celebration.
Before we get started with our program, we would like to recognize some special attendees. So when we call your name as part of a group, please stand or raise your hand. From the Pasadena City Council, Mayor Victor Gordo, Vice Mayor Felicia Williams, Councilmember Jean Masuda, and newly elected and installed Councilmember Jason Lyon. We have former mayors and members of the City Council here with us as well. Bill Bogard, Terry Tornick, Assemblymember Chris Holden, Margaret McAustin, and Justin Jones. Please stand.
And joining us today is Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. And attending on behalf of State Senator Anthony Portantino, Dominique Corey. There are a few notable current and former city employees joining us: City Manager Miguel Marquez, City Attorney Michelle Beal-Banyaris, former City Manager Cynthia Kurtz, as well as members of the city's executive leadership team, city staff, city operating companies, city commissions, and council district liaisons in attendance.
If that's you, please stand up. Thank you.
Finally, and most importantly, we have our hosts, Andy and Liz Wilson, and their two sons, Spencer and Dylan.
Woo! Our program features notable public servants from the Pasadena community who will share with us the importance of public service and what called them to serve others. You know, Pam, I bet if we were to narrow the aperture and really focus in on the data, we could get a better sense of the commonality between each speaker. Create an online dashboard, if you will, comparing and contrasting characteristics of community service and volunteerism, you know, really to inspire and motivate others to consider a similar path. What do you think?
Wow, Mark, you are really channeling your inner Annie Wilson. How about we just get started with our program?
Sounds good.
State Senator Anthony Portantino was scheduled to be our first speaker, but unfortunately he was called away at the last minute on state business. In his place, we are fortunate to have Dominic Corey, his field representative, who will speak on behalf of Senator Portantino. As Dominic comes to the stage, there he is. Just a bit of information on Anthony. He represents Senate District 25 in the state legislature. He is a former assembly member, having served 3 terms in the California State Assembly representing the 44th District. He also served 2 terms as mayor of La Cañada.
Senator Portantino represents 930,000 people in the 25th Senate District, which includes Pasadena. Please welcome Dominic Corey.
Good evening, good evening. Mr. Wilson, Senator sent his apologies that he couldn't be here. You know how much respect and love he has for you. To work in government, to be a part of the political system that runs the city, the state, the country, you know it takes a lot of heart, dedication, love for constituents, and a lot of sleepless nights. And I'm sure you have more gray hairs than you came in now that you're leaving. It takes a real person to work for the government because it is so many lives that you have at stake and so many big decisions that you have. And so on behalf of Senator Portantino and the state of California, just thank you for your years of service. Thank you. We know you're not going anywhere. We know we can still see you walking around the community. We know you'll be a part of the Burbank, Pasadena, Glendale Airport Authority. So you're not leaving the city of Pasadena, which we are grateful for. But just thank you for all your service. And to the Wilson family, your dad left big shoes to the boys. You guys can always come back and run for office and do better than your dad. But just thank you for letting us have your dad for the last 7.5 years. I was gonna say 8, just round it on up. But thank you for letting the community of Pasadena have your dad for 8 years, and thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Our next speaker is Assemblymember Chris Holden. Assemblymember Holden carries with him a lifetime of experience in public service. He was first elected to the California State Assembly in 2012 and has won re-election ever since, including the recently completed general election in 2022. He served as the Assembly Majority Floor Leader and represents a constituency that stretches from Pasadena in the west and Upland to the east.
Prior to his service on the State Assembly, Chris served almost 24 years on the Pasadena City Council. In 1989, he was the youngest city council member to serve at age 28. Mark, weren't you telling me that you were a junior in high school then? And only the second African American to serve as mayor from 1997 to 1999. Chris was a commissioner and president on the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority, as well as serving on several other legislative bodies. I also learned something recently about Chris that I never knew. After graduating college from San Diego State University, he turned down the opportunity to play professional basketball overseas and instead pursued what he has since been a very successful career in public service. Please welcome Chris Holden.
Good evening. Oh, really? It's the holidays. All right. Part of public service is being able to be enthusiastic when you're in a room of other public servants, and that's what we are in tonight. I know we're going to give a nod to Andy Wilson for his wonderful leadership and being able to represent an important part of Pasadena, but all of Pasadena, but being elected from District 7 and serving 7.5 years. But we also, what I can say to you, Andy, is that you're very fortunate. You want to know why? You got to leave with your hair. Some of us didn't. But I will say to all of you that as I look across the room, that there are elected officials here, but we're all public servants. In Pasadena especially, this is a community that thrives on volunteerism and community engagement. Neighborhood associations that are made up of people who just want to see a better neighborhood, and having so many bind together that makes all of Pasadena and the surrounding communities in this great San Gabriel Valley very special. This government is citizen government. Volunteers who serve as commissioners, taking on very important and vital roles to design the community, to keep the community healthy and safe, and to look at its art and culture and a future that makes it bright, not only for us who live here, but for those who come here to do business, to visit, to shop, and to just be a part of this experience. So congratulations not only to Andy, but those members of the City Council, School Board, Board of Trustees, and others who serve in elected official capacity, but congratulations to all of you who understand the importance of public service, but as volunteers and community activists who care about this city and care about this community. So congratulations to all of you. And Andy, I'm gonna try to grow my hair back if I can right now. God bless you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Holden. Next, we have Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. Supervisor Barger proudly serves the residents of the 5th District, the largest in Los Angeles County, which includes 20 cities, 83 unincorporated communities in the Antelope, San Gabriel, San Fernando, Crescenta, and Santa Clarita valleys. Catherine was born and raised in the 5th District. Her public service career began as a college intern in the office of former Supervisor Michael Antonovich. She later rose to Chief Deputy in 2001, where she served until her own election to the Board of Supervisors in 2016. She both served as chair of the board and was reelected for her second term in 2020.
Supervisor Barger serves on numerous boards. By our count, almost a dozen. Before we call her up, let's check she's not on any Zoom calls right now. No, you're good? Okay. Please join us in welcoming Supervisor Catherine Barger.
Thank you. I love what Assemblyman Holden said about public servants. I love the word public servant. It's so you, Andy, to not want it to be about you, but for us to talk about why we went into public service. And it's exciting to me. And I'm going to start with a quote. One famous Pasadena native said, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on our lives." That quote was by Jackie Robinson, and I truly do believe that it rings true. And it is important for us to recognize the impact that we can and have made on our constituents. That is certainly was really my motivation for running for public office. As you heard, I was an intern. And when you're an intern, I was an intern in the Pasadena field office, which at that time was at the Pasadena courthouse. So you had people walking in who were really angry, and you had people calling in that were equally as frustrated with government because they didn't feel government was listening. And our job was to listen and not always tell them what they wanted to hear, but validate the fact that government was working for them. And when I went away to college, I knew that I wanted to do something having to do with public service. Never did I think that I would be fortunate enough to not only work for the county, but then run for public office and be able to do effective change. And when I started working with the county, I handled children's services, welfare, mental health, and children's services, mental health, Department of Health Services, and welfare. And those truly are for the most vulnerable population that we all deal with, especially when you look at what's going on today with our homelessness issue as it relates to youth. So for me, public service is about giving back. It's about doing what's right, doing unto others, and really hoping that you're going to impact their lives in ways that are positive. And I try to be a good listener. I like to listen to hear what people have to say. That's what's always really motivated me to be in public service, and it's been an honor. And Andy, I think, when we met, we walked through the community, and we got to know each other. And that was the moment I knew that you were someone I was looking forward to working with. I'm looking forward to working with you, Jason, because I know that he's handled the baton to you, and I know it's in good hands, Andy. I'm not going to have you come up because I know we're on a tight frame, but I do have a proclamation recognizing your years of service. I know we're going to be working together on different ventures. I'm excited, but this is for you, and thank you for being a good role model to your kids, because I met them tonight, and I'm impressed in what's coming in the next generation. Thank you.
Where are we? Thank you, Supervisor Barger. Next, we have former Mayor Bill Bogard, who needs no introduction, but we still have one for him. Bill first started on the City Council, then known as the Board of Directors, when he was appointed in 1978. Let's skip how old you were back then, Mark. He was the representative for District 6 until 1986, at which time he also served his first stint as mayor from 1984 to 1986. He returned to the City Council in 1999 when he successfully ran for the inaugural citywide elected mayor position, which he held for 4 terms and holds the title of the longest-serving mayor in Pasadena's history.
Bill served in the United States Air Force, where he was stationed in Los Angeles and Casablanca, Morocco. He has volunteered on numerous boards and committees, including on City Council standing committees, local nonprofits, and city-affiliated boards. During his tenure on the City Council as the mayor, Bill served on the board of directors for the League of California Cities for several years, including in 2012 to 2013 when he served as president of the League of California Cities. Aside from the many details of his public service, one achievement that I am sure he is most proud of, Bill led the search and successfully identified the replacement for longstanding former city clerk, Jane Rodriguez.
Wait, Mark, isn't that you?
It's a notable accomplishment,
Just
Pam.
move on.
All
Just
right.
move on to the introduction.
Okay. Please join us in welcoming former Mayor Bill Bogard.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here to join in this celebration of Pasadena's great tradition of community service. It's an occasion to remind ourselves that Pasadena is a special community because of the numbers of persons engaged in volunteer and community service. Of course, the starting point tonight is to recognize the important contributions that Andy Wilson has made as a council member. In his efforts on behalf of the city, Andy has been hardworking, energetic, and innovative. Importantly, he has also been extremely successful. One example of his impact on this great city is his strategy to have the city recognized for its tremendous capabilities in the fields of science and technology, construction, and engineering. A number of years ago, Andy decided that Pasadena's strengths in that area should be better known and built upon as a part of the economy of Pasadena. And he decided to promote Pasadena as a center for technology. That vision has been achieved through an organization that many of us know, Innovate Pasadena. Pasadena has a strong sector in the economy of technology and innovation, thanks to Andy Wilson. Andy asked the speakers tonight to mention how they came to be involved in community affairs. And the introduction that was made tonight gave my speech in that regard. But what I can say is that I was first drawn into community activities in Pasadena by serving on my neighborhood association in Southwest Pasadena, and then serving as president. And after that, I served on a number of committees and task forces before being appointed to the city council in 1978 to represent District 6. I'd like to, and then I was a private citizen after serving 8 years on the council, and in 1999 ran for the position, the honored position of directly elected mayor. I'd like to close my remarks by congratulating persons who are just now starting their public service in Pasadena, including Jason Lyon on the city council, and Patrice McKenzie and Yarma Velasquez on the PUSD. Good luck and thanks to your willingness to serve. And to you, Andy, congratulations and gratitude for your community service. You're a role model for those of us who care about this great city, and you've made the city a better place to live and work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Bogard. Next, we have another former Pasadena mayor, Terry Tornick. Terry's public service began with the U.S. Army National Guard Airborne. He also worked for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development And as Pasadena's planning director, Terry has 20 years as a board member of Pasadena Neighborhood Housing Services, a nonprofit organization devoted to affordable housing in Northwest Pasadena. Terry is a former planning commissioner and design commissioner. In 2009, he was elected to represent City Council District 7, where he served until 2015, when he successfully ran and was elected as the second citywide mayor of Pasadena, serving in that capacity until 2020.
During his 11 years on the City Council, Terry was the chair of the Finance Committee, a member of the Municipal Services, Public Safety, and Legislative Policy Committees, council appointee the Fire and Police Retirement Board, as well as board member on the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority and the LA County Sanitation District. Please welcome former Mayor Terry Tornick.
Well, I'll leave it to Andy. I have to thank him for bringing us to this room, to this great room. I mean, I don't know how many of you have never been here before, but this is an extraordinary place, and we don't get to be in it often enough. It has some ginormous price tag for renovation, but really, we could have just had a nice evening of schmoozing and cocktails, but Andy had to overthink it and challenge us to pontificate about what drove us into the madness of public service. I think, but I'm grateful. I mean, I think it is appropriate, particularly in these days and times. I have the privilege of having been engaged in some version or other, apart from the Army, since 1968 at various levels of government, both as a professional public servant, serving as an employee, as a consultant, as an appointed official, and as an elected official. And each of them has their own charm. I've also had the privilege of being able to serve in a variety of communities. I've worked in a lot of cities. Pasadena is the center of the universe for some. For me, it's an important part of the universe. I'm not sure it's the epicenter. But I think that my experiences in all of these places and in all of these roles has been very varied and very satisfying. When you can take an idea and work with people on developing an idea, a glimmer of a concept, and see it all the way to fruition, to a program or a change in the way we do things in a way that enriches people's lives and improves the community, it's a tremendous opportunity. And public service gives you the opportunity to do that. Unhappily, not everything is a success. There are failures as well. And sometimes it's because the idea wasn't very good to begin with. Sometimes it's because your colleagues aren't prepared to play ball. Sometimes it's because you're too far out front, and sometimes it's just some exogenous circumstance, that's beyond your control. But all that notwithstanding, I have very few regrets in terms of my public service, and so I have made it a point, particularly when I would visit kids in classrooms, to urge them to think about what they can do in terms of public service on a volunteer basis or ultimately running for office or whatever. And I think that that's hugely important in terms of what it means to our nation and our community's future. But I also tell them it'll make them feel good. There's a payoff for public service, and I think that anybody that's served will acknowledge that it really can be tremendously satisfying. These days, it's a little bit more challenging. And I was reflecting yesterday, some of us were at the memorial for Dolores Higginbotham, who you all know and whoever knew her loved her. She was able to exercise service and provide leadership in a very quiet voice. It was remarkable, really, how she in her quiet way could have such tremendous influence. And that seems like a distant memory today. when the loudest voices and most radical voices are somehow drowning out the kind of discourse, public discourse, that we're accustomed to having. And it's hard to reflect on the value of public service when there are people outside your door at home cursing and threatening violence. That's the reality. And yet, even in the face of that, I would continue to encourage people to, more than ever, consider getting engaged in public service so that those loud and violent voices, radical voices, don't necessarily prevail just because they're beating the drum the loudest. So I am grateful to having had an opportunity to serve the public. I continue to try to do it in my own quiet way. I congratulate Andy on his service and on pulling us together this evening for a moment of reflection, apart from the nice hors d'oeuvres and the Gold Room. And I wish you all a very happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Our next speaker is none other than Mayor Victor Gordo. Victor first began his service with the City of Pasadena in 1997 when then Vice Mayor Bill Crowfoot appointed him as his field representative for District 5. And by the way, when I first started my job, Victor was the only male field representative in our office, which was quite something. Following Vice Mayor Crowfoot's retirement from city service, Victor was elected to represent Pasadena Council District 5 in 2001 and was re-elected 4 times as the council district representative. In 2020, Victor became the first Latino and the 3rd citywide elected mayor of Pasadena.
During his tenure on the council, Victor has served as the council's representative on the Rose Bowl Operating Company and was the RBOC's longest-serving president, leading the stadium's successful renovation efforts. Victor is the chair of EdTech and serves on the council's finance and legislative policy committees. He is also the representative for the city on several outside agency boards. Please welcome Victor Gordo, Mayor of Pasadena, or as he likes to refer it, and Terry stole my line, the center of the universe.
All right, so how's everybody doing? We've got to show Jomsky how to do it here. How's everybody doing? All right. Let me first congratulate Liz and the entire Wilson family. Let's give Liz and the Wilson family a round of applause. You know, for those of us, and it's probably all of us in this room, who have a role in public service in Pasadena, we all know that we couldn't do it without our family's support. And so I want to recognize Liz and the Wilson family for having supported our friend Andy Wilson and continue to support Andy Wilson as he continues to serve. Thank you, Liz. You know, I was joking with, here, let's hear it. I was joking with Cynthia Kurtz in the back, and Cynthia says to me, you know, Pasadena is one of those cities where when people ask you, or before they ask you what board, but what you do, they ask you, what board do you serve on? And that's very true. I laughed at that, and you know, it's very true. Pasadena is a city of engaged people, and that's what makes us so special. You know, we talk about the great institutions, this Gold Room, the Convention Center, City Hall, but it's really the people of Pasadena that make us the center of the universe. And I do believe that Pasadena has that intangible feel, that intangible beauty in its neighborhoods, in its institutions, and particularly in its people. And, you know, we have a long history in Pasadena of being civically engaged. It didn't just happen that Pasadena became such a beautiful place. It's happened over time because people like Andy and people like the Wilson family supported Andy in order to contribute to this great city. And it's happened over generations and hundreds of thousands of people who have taken the time to be civically involved, ensure that Pasadena remains authentic. And, you know, if there's one word that I could use to describe our city and the people of our city, it's authentic. And that's what distinguishes us from any new developed city and, in my view, any other people. So I've watched Andy grow from a junior council member to the leader on the city council on innovation, importance of neighborhoods to our city, the importance of some of the great institutions, finance. He's grown from a point where, you know, he'd lean over to me and ask, what do I do next? What do I say next? To the point where he's one of the leaders of the city council. And, you know, as we welcome Jason Lyon to carry on that great tradition, I want to say thank you to Andy for his many years of service to all of the people of Pasadena. And Andy has contributed not just, and those of us who've served with him know, not just to his district, but to all of the people in Pasadena. And we were, of course, Andy did ask us to say, you know, what got us involved. You know, many of you know I was born in Zacatecas, Mexico, and my parents brought me to Pasadena at age 5. And I had the great the great benefit and luck of landing in this great city where people helped the young immigrant kid who lived in the garage get to the point where he could say he would be mayor. And, you know, and so how did I become interested to work at day one before I became field representative for Bill Crowfoot? The Pasadena Star-News. I was the paper boy. So Larry Wilson, thank you. I was the paper boy, and what does the paper boy do every day? You fold the newspaper. And every day you're looking at the headline, you're reading, you know, I'm 9 years old, 4 years after arriving in this country, in Pasadena, and the center of the universe, and suddenly I'm reading about, you know, a city manager, a police chief, and crazy council members going after each other. This sounds great. This is entertaining, but you can make a difference. I learned quickly that civic engagement was a way to give back and say thank you to a great city and a great people for having welcomed me and my family and been so embracing and ensuring that I got to Little League games, ensuring that when my parents were at work, I was looked after. And so that's what got me engaged, that's what got me involved, is the Pasadena Star-News. But really, it was who the Pasadena Star-News was talking about. Residents of Pasadena being involved in their city, caring about their neighbors, and being able to reflect and say, you know, I know what that looks like, because I'm going through the same thing. So Andy, Liz, the entire Wilson family, thank you for being a part of a great city. Thank you for your great contributions to a city that is the greatest city, in my view, in my humble view, and the greatest people that inhabit this city are all better for your service. So thank you all very much for everything that you do as well.
Thank you, Mayor Gordo. Next, we have our newly elected and most recently installed District 7 Council Member Jason Lyon. Jason's journey in public service in California began more than 20 years ago with his election to the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council, as well as serving on Los Angeles City's Blue Ribbon Committee on Neighborhood Council Review and as Mayor Hahn's appointee to the East Los Angeles Area Planning Commission. Jason served in various volunteer capacities for Pacific Oaks School, and after settling in Pasadena permanently in 2010, Jason joined the board of directors of Young and Healthy and was elected to the vestry of All Saints Church and became its senior lay leader in 2016. In 2018, Jason joined the board of the San Gabriel Valley Economic Partnership and also accepted a seat on the board of Planned Parenthood Pasadena, San Gabriel Valley.
Jason was appointed to the Pasadena's Historic Preservation Commission in 2017, and in 2019 was nominated by Councilmember Wilson to serve on the city's Planning Commission. As a result of his successful candidacy in the recent June primary election, Jason was just installed this past Monday to begin his term as the new council member representing District 7. Please welcome Councilmember Jason Lyon.
Y'all, I am humbled and dismayed to be included in this lineup of speakers, and honored. My role model in service was my grandfather, who was and is my hero. He was an extraordinary human being. Literally, in all of my life with him, I never heard him say an unkind or cross word. And he modeled for me and for my family the way to be of service in the world. And he was a deacon in his church for 60 years, week in and week out, serving his community. And he raised us with a sense that our one job in life is to be of service to another human being. And I take that very, very seriously in all ways. And so my own journey with service began when I was 14 years old. A dear friend of mine was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And in the face of that disempowering and tragic event, I wanted to make a difference in the world. And I learned that stepping into service is a way of claiming agency and affecting change in the world. And we made a huge difference. I founded a 501c3 when I was 14 years old with someone, and we changed the entire school district's approach to education on alcohol issues. Ended up changing state law, and I was off and running. I had the bug for making change through service, and I have pretty much done service my entire life in a variety of capacities, as you heard. When I moved to Pasadena, there were many, many reasons why I felt at home, but not least of them was the fact we like to claim that I don't know that anyone's actually verified with data, but that we have more nonprofits per square mile than any other city in the country. I like it. I'm going to say it. We're the center of the universe. We are a city dedicated to service, and nearly every person I know and every person in this room is on a board or a commission or they do something at their church, and it is part of the ethos of this community, and I immediately knew that I was home. My call to public service has come typically through feeling like change needed to come in the world, and this office is no different. We had an ugly election in District 7 in Andy's last race. It was a part of the whole tenor of our national politics, which only got worse and worse after that. And I kept feeling this feeling like we need politicians who are willing to step up and say that because we disagree doesn't mean we have to be enemies. You don't have to be evil because you have a different policy feeling than I have, and no one was saying it. And I kept waiting for someone else to say it, and then I started to feel this call to be the person to say it. And so I went to Andy and said, what are your plans? And he said, I'm on the way out. And he was a gracious and kind mentor, and an excellent role model for serving the district. He has been dedicated to constituent service, and to the people of District 7 and the people of Pasadena, and never has made an enemy out of someone for disagreeing. And that is the model that I will try to follow in this job. I thank you for your service to our city and our community and for your friendship. And I thank you for asking me to be here in this august group. Thanks.
And now the moment we have all been waiting for. You know, Mark, Andy always tells me that you are his favorite current Pasadena city clerk.
You know, Pam, I am the only current Pasadena city clerk, so take that for what it's worth. Andy has a long history of service with local nonprofits, including leadership roles at Pasadena Heritage, Pacific Oaks College, the Gamble House, and STEAM Coders. Andy is a co-founder and board member of Innovate Pasadena, which is dedicated to advancing the east side of Los Angeles as a vibrant innovation community. Andy also has extensive volunteer experience with the city of Pasadena, including serving on the Planning Commission, Design Commission, Urban Forestry Advisory Commission, and the Pasadena Center Operating Company. He was appointed to represent District 7 on the City Council in 2015 and was later elected by the voters in 2017.
Most recently, Andy was chair on the council's Municipal Services Committee and served on Ed Tech and Finance Committees, as well as the council representative on the Arroyo Verdugo Communities Joint Powers Authority. He is currently serving on the Burbank-Glendale Pasadena Airport Authority. Andy is a champion for economic development and local high-quality job creations, but also passionate about those less fortunate who live on our streets or struggle with housing affordability. On a personal note, it's been such a pleasure to work for Andy. A whole 7.5 years, I can't believe it's flown by. He has taught me so much and also listened when I had a strong opinion. I know I speak for both Mark and me when I say we are truly going to miss working with him. Of course, I fully anticipate those early morning texts every day about fallen palm fronds, stalled construction projects, and missing street trees. With that, please give a warm welcome to our good friend, Andy Wilson.
Wow, thank you so much. What a wonderful evening, and thank you all for coming. Ex-Mayor Terry Tornick said it. I love this room. It's kind of a hidden jewel in this iconic building, and the architecture in the center of our city. I think it embodies the essence of what makes Pasadena so special. Thank you to our special guests for talking about your own personal journeys of service. Thank you, Mark and Pam, for emceeing this lovely evening. I really appreciate that. A little humor was much appreciated. And Mark, you're still my favorite city clerk in the city of Pasadena. By the way, he does an amazing job. I have to say, Mark, it's like, and I'll, not to go off script because I have my 5 pages. My wife made me time it. It's 5 minutes. You'll ring the bell any moment. But we do have incredible city staff. The professionalism and commitment to serving our community is just stunning. It's a very difficult time sometimes to be a good public servant, but I really appreciate the staff that's here. And Mark, you exemplify, I think, that work. So thank you for having a steady hand and a good sense of humor at times. I also want to thank the amazing Scott Mayo and Charles for the music they were playing. So they, hidden talents in District 7 adds a lot to this festive occasion. And I want to thank our student ambassadors who volunteered to help guide you today. I thought I might close today by sharing a few personal reflections on service myself. The obligation and responsibility of taking on a service role has always been an important part of my personal psyche, perhaps a byproduct of my deep commitment to scouting and its values as a kid. However, I never truly exercised those muscles as much as I like to until we landed in Pasadena. As a child, I was constantly switching homes in cities. My senior year in high school, I had the pleasure of calling 3 different places home. It's hard to commit to service when you're always on the move. That all changed when Liz and I arrived in Pasadena over 25 years ago. Just as we were getting married, we had the great fortune of being able to select a place to live, and we landed in Pasadena, very intentionally so. The city is so compelling with its amazing architecture, walkable neighborhoods, renowned institution, and our incredible diverse population. As a place, it just spoke to us. It was upon making a long-term commitment to a specific place, our home, our long-term home, that really allowed me to engage in the community, embark on a journey of service. However, at that time, building a career and a family was always my top priority, with community service filling the gaps. Given our love for historic preservation and architecture, I initially took a role on the board of Pasadena Heritage, was mentioned. Sue Mossman, I don't know if she's here tonight. I was fortunate under those circumstances to build a long-term bonds with the amazing Bogart, Bill and Claire Bogart through that experience. That led to my first commission appointment by the then Mayor Bogart to the Design Commission, which ultimately led to numerous other city roles. However, it wasn't until I was 50 that I realized we had accumulated enough material things perhaps too many, some would say. You can never have enough wine, for those who really know me. Material things you can, but not wine. And that more of my time would be better spent working on service to others and helping improve our community. Though I had success in the private sector, it simply doesn't hold a candle to the deep personal satisfaction I feel when making good policy, helping those in need, or recruiting another quality employer to set up operations in our fine city. Our work as public servants both sustains our community, but also sustains our souls. On a successful day, the joy of a job well done in the service of others can literally be quite exhilarating. I think many of us seek to live lives of purpose. I believe committing to service can go a long way in fulfilling that fundamental need. The thrill of service can be truly incredible, and I often lament that I didn't fully commit to service early in my life. To quote Nelson Mandela, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived," I apologize, "it is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." So while I'm leaving my role at Pasadena as a council person, I'm not leaving the world of public service, quite to the contrary. Instead, I'm creating the space so I might serve in new ways that deliver more impact, direct impact to our community. The city council work is all-consuming and incredibly important, but it's primarily focused on policy and legislation, so a bit removed from directly engaging people of need. I've come to realize there are many different flavors of service, so I'm eager to serve in ways that are better aligned with my aspirations. I'm truly excited about what the future may bring next. Our society only functions when capable and ethical people commit to service. We need elected officials, commissioners, amidst their many here today, professional staff, which I adore, not-for-profit leaders, board members, and other volunteers, and so many others to fill important leadership roles and address critical community needs. While it is certainly a privilege to serve, it also can be a burden at times, not just in terms of the time, but also the attacks and criticism that are all too often in today's polarized and politically charged environment. So this evening's celebration is dedicated to all those who commit their time and energy to improving our community. We are truly grateful for your service. Beyond the distinguished leaders who spoke earlier this evening, I want to especially acknowledge my amazing field deputy, Pam Thyrett, who has served for 7.5 years, and then previously for Terry Tornick and Sid Tyler. Her support was key to my success, so thank you, Pam. I also must acknowledge, and the mayor did a nice job of this, the steadfast support of my terrific wife, Liz, and my two boys, Spencer and Dylan. And of course, my furry friend Gandalf, if you haven't met him. Also, special thanks to Liz, because she's actually paying for it tonight, so thank you, Liz, for footing the bill. No taxpayer dollars here, I assure you. A committed public servant can only succeed in partnership with their family, so thank you once again for being partners, and I really appreciate Mayor Gordo highlighting that earlier. It's my hope that we all might better appreciate those who serve, but also perhaps ignite a spark in a few of you to pursue your inclination to serve. Our community truly needs you. So with that, I'm going to thank you all for coming. I've asked two of my kind of spiritual advisors, Reverend Pam King and Matt Caldwell, to come up and provide a blessing for all those who commit their lives and time and energy to serve. So Pam, Matt, come on up.
Do you want to say anything about them?
I guess we have an introduction for them, so I'll let them do that piece.
Do you want to do it?
No, where is that?
Right here.
Oh, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this, guys. I'm off script. It happens sometimes. Reverend Dr. Pamela King is the Executive Director of the Thrive Center for Human Development and the Peter L. Benson Professor of Applied Developmental Science at Fuller Theological Seminary, right up the street, in the School of Psychology. Her research is at the intersection of human thriving, which I love, spirituality, and virtue. Those are some pretty fine attributes. Her work combines empirical psychological research, theology, and community engagement to further understand how diverse populations thrive. So welcome, Pam. And Dr. Matthew Caldwell. Matt's my minister at Knox. Matt became a pastor of Knox Presbyterian Church in October 2007. Well, that was longer than I thought it was. Time flies when you're having fun. Before coming to Knox, Matt served as the associate pastor for the Christian education and family life at the First Presbyterian Church in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I lived part of my life in Connecticut. He taught classes for Fuller Theological Seminary and San Francisco Theological Seminary, and had spoken around the country on topics as spiritual practices, Sabbath economics, immigration, and church revitalization. Thank you all for joining us and wrapping up tonight on blessing all my colleagues and fellow collaborators in the world of service.
Well, a spiritual practice of sorts in our tradition, the Christian tradition that we share, is a blessing. And before we do that, we've remarked on the room, but I'd like you to take a moment and look up. We are in Pasadena, the city of roses, and we have many blossoms adorned here. And I'd love you to look around. Look at the faces to your right and to your left. We are the blossoms of Pasadena. And in the study of thriving, it sounds like an invigorating word, and who doesn't want to thrive? But the reality is, when there's blossoms and roses, there's thorns. And thriving isn't always easy, and it's not just a bed of roses, but it has thorns. And my understanding of thriving is actually one that involves connecting and contributing out of your own strengths and aligned with your deepest values and your spiritual motivations and aspirations. A lot of us were raised in an era that to thrive or be successful was to operate within boxes, but not out of our own strengths. And Andy has been such an exemplar of thriving, who has uniquely served out of his own strengths and been a great example for that. And right now, we want to recognize you all who have also served in so many ways.
Wonder if we could have, if you're not standing already, those who've been involved in public service, are right now, or have been in the past, if you would please stand for this blessing. One of the cherished blessings in the Jewish and Christian tradition comes from the book of Numbers. It consists of words that were given to Moses to then given to those who occupied the highest position of religious service for the people of ancient Israel. They were then asked to give these words to the people. Their words and their actions, that of the high priest, were asked to be a blessing so that the community might thrive, might know joy, might experience blessing together. So for those of you all who are gathered here, but especially those in public service, and especially Andy Wilson, hear these words to you who have sought with your words and your actions, your decisions and commitments to be a blessing to your community. Hear this blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace, now and always. Amen.